On February 26, 1986, the residents of Times Beach, Missouri woke up to an unthinkable reality. By sunset, their entire town would cease to exist. 2,000 people gone. Homes abandoned mid-breakfast. Businesses left with doors still unlocked. An entire community erased from the map in less than 24 hours. This is the true story of the town that disappeared overnight. A Cheezy Radio documentary, Times Beach, Missouri. Population 2,240 in the early 1980s. It was the kind of place where everyone knew their neighbors, where kids rode bikes until the streetlights came on, where the biggest event of the year was the 4th of July parade down Route 66, located just 17 miles southwest of St. Louis. Times Beach was a working-class community built along the Meramec River. It started as a summer resort in the 1920s, but by the 1970s, it had become a permanent home to families who couldn't afford the city. The town was humble. Most streets were still unpaved dirt roads. There was no sewer system. Houses were small, often little more than converted vacation cabins. But to the people who lived there, it was home. Marilyn Listener moved to Times Beach in 1972 with her husband and 3 children. She later recalled, "We didn't have much, but we had each other." It was a real community. People looked out for one another. But there was one problem that plagued Times Beach constantly: the dirt roads. Every time a car drove by, clouds of dust would fill the air, coating homes, getting into people's lungs, making life uncomfortable. The town couldn't afford to pave the roads, so they looked for cheaper solutions. That's when they hired Russell Bliss. Russell Bliss was a waste oil hauler. His business was simple. He collected used motor oil from gas stations and businesses, then resold it. In 1972, the Times Beach City Council hired Bliss to spray waste oil on their dirt roads. The oil would keep the dust down and save the town money. It seemed like a win-win solution. What no one knew was that Bliss had recently taken on a new client, a chemical company called Northeastern Pharmaceutical and Chemical Company, or Napaco. Napaco manufactured hexachlorophene, a chemical used in antibacterial soaps. The manufacturing process created a toxic byproduct. Dioxin is one of the most toxic substances known to science. Even in microscopic amounts, it can cause cancer, birth defects, immune system damage, and death. Napaco needed someone to dispose of their dioxin-contaminated waste. Russell Bliss agreed to take it, but instead of disposing of it properly, which would have been expensive, Bliss did something unthinkable. He mixed the dioxin-contaminated waste with his waste oil, and then he sprayed it all over Times Beach. Between 1972 and 1976, Bliss sprayed thousands of gallons of dioxin-contaminated oil on the dirt roads of Times Beach. He also sprayed it at horse arenas, farms, and parking lots across Missouri. Almost immediately, animals started dying. At one horse arena, 62 horses died within weeks. Birds fell from the sky. Cats and dogs became ill, but no one connected it to the oil spraying. Not yet. By 1982, the Environmental Protection Agency had been investigating the horse arena deaths for years. They'd found dioxin levels over 100 times higher than what was considered safe. The EPA traced the contamination back to Russell Bliss and his West Oil operation. They began testing every location where Bliss had sprayed. That's when they turned their attention to Times Beach. In November 1982, EPA officials arrived in Times Beach and began testing the soil. What they found was horrifying. Dioxin levels in Times Beach weren't just high, they were astronomical. Some areas measured over 300 parts per billion, more than 30,000 times higher than safe levels. The entire town was contaminated. The roads, the yards, the soil under people's homes, the playgrounds where children played. But the EPA faced a problem. They needed more testing to determine the full extent of contamination. That would take time. Meanwhile, residents continued living their lives, completely unaware of the poison beneath their feet. Then came the flood. December 5th, 1982. Heavy rains caused the Merrimack River to overflow its banks. Times Beach, built right along the river, was directly in the flood's path. Within hours, the entire town was underwater. Residents evacuated to emergency shelters, expecting to return home once the waters receded. But this wasn't a normal flood. The water wasn't just destroying homes, it was spreading the dioxin contamination throughout the entire town. Every street, every basement, every building. The floodwater mixed with the contaminated soil and carried dioxin into places that hadn't been contaminated before. On December 23rd, 1982, just 2 days before Christmas, the EPA made an announcement that would change everything. Rita Lavelle, the EPA's assistant administrator, stood before news cameras and said words that residents would never forget. "We are recommending that all residents of Times Beach evacuate immediately and permanently. The town is too contaminated to be safe for human habitation. Too contaminated. Too dangerous." The town was finished. 2,000 people were given a choice that wasn't really a choice at all. Leave your homes or risk death. Marilyn Leisner, who had lived in Times Beach for a decade, later recalled, "They told us on the radio just like that. Your home is poisoned. Your town is gone. Get out." By February 26, 1983, exactly 3 months after the flood, Beach was a ghost town. The federal government offered to buy out every property in Times Beach. It was the largest civilian exposure to dioxin in American history, and the government wanted to avoid lawsuits. But the buyout was controversial. The government offered property values based on pre-flood, pre-contamination assessments. Many residents felt they were being shortchanged. Mary Leisner bought her home for $17,000. The government offered her $38,000, but that was 1983 money for a home. She'd spent over a decade improving, and it had to cover not just the house, but the loss of her community, her children's schools, her entire life. By 1985, the government had purchased all 800 properties in Times Beach for a total of $33 million. Then came the demolition. Every building in Times Beach was systematically destroyed. Homes, businesses, the church, the school, all of it reduced to rubble. The contaminated soil was excavated and burned in a massive incinerator built specifically for this purpose. The process took years and cost hundreds of millions of dollars. By 1997, Times Beach had been completely erased. The land was eventually turned into Route 66 State Park. Today, if you visit Route 66 State Park, you can walk trails and enjoy nature. There are no markers indicating a town once stood there. No memorials for the community that was lost. Just trees, grass, and silence. So what happened to the 2,000 people of Times Beach? They scattered. Most relocated to nearby communities. Some left Missouri entirely. Families were separated. Friendships ended. A community that had existed for over 60 years simply dissolved. In the years following the evacuation, health studies were conducted on former Times Beach residents. The results were mixed and controversial. Some studies showed elevated cancer rates. Others found increased immune system problems. But conclusively linking health issues to dioxin exposure proved difficult. The damage, if it existed, was invisible and slow-moving. Russell Bliss, the waste hauler who started it all, maintained for years that he didn't know the waste contained dioxin. He was never criminally charged, though he faced numerous civil lawsuits. Napaco, the chemical company that created the contaminated wastes, faced legal consequences. Several executives were convicted of environmental crimes, but by then, the company had declared bankruptcy. In 2012, about 100 former Times Beach residents held a reunion. They shared memories, old photos, and stories of the town that once was. Marilyn Leisner, now elderly, told the reporter, "Times Beach wasn't just a place, it was family. And they took that from us. Not just our homes, our community, our identity. You can't put a price on that." The story of Times Beach changed America. It led to stricter environmental regulations. It created new protocols for hazardous waste disposal. It proved that corporate negligence could destroy entire communities. But it also revealed uncomfortable truths, that working-class communities are often the first to suffer from environmental disaster, that cost-cutting measures can have devastating consequences, that sometimes the damage can't be undone. Today, Route 66 State Park sits where Times Beach once stood. The dioxin is gone. The buildings are gone. The people are gone. But the story remains. A reminder that communities are fragile, that trust can be betrayed, and that an entire town can disappear overnight. The town that disappeared overnight is gone, but the lessons it taught us remain. What do you think? Should corporations face harsher penalties for environmental disasters? Should the government have done more for Times Beach residents? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you want more true documentary stories like this, subscribe to Cheezy Radio. We bring you real stories, real people, real history every single day. Hit that like button if this story shocked you, and turn on notifications for tomorrow's episode. This has been Cheezy Radio. Thanks for watching.